So how many times through this cycle now for you? Is this round 3 for go to the draft, get ready for free agency? This is old hat for you now.
Yeah, but the draft is always something I was a big part of before. Like, that was a major part of my job. Yeah. So it's just, that part doesn't feel, the free agency, we're in there, but obviously Tree did all the calling and talking and, like we would call agents, we'd all he'd call on this player, that player, this player, and we would do that. But then when it came down to like, are they open to coming? Okay. Yeah. Then Tree would kind of take over. So now it's a little different, but it's been good.
But if things go poorly, it's your fault. And if things go well, then it's kind of your credit, but
feels like I don't get it. If it goes well, it's not mine. Yeah. No, you know what? Yeah. Good or bad. You got to take it.
Marriage.
Yeah, that's weird. Not to dive right in, but you mentioned that kind of, are they coming? Will they come? It's a different time for young hockey players. It feels like maybe it's always been that way, but it's more than just the elite 1 or 2. It feels like kids have some sway now, some real power on, I don't know if I want to play. I may not sign. It's changed.
It's amazing, and I think it's just the way we are now. I mean, the kids I didn't have shooting coaches and personal people talk, they just have so many people around them. It's like they have a team and we have a team, and whether they want to come, they don't want to come, what they want, how they envision their life going forward. Like, they have a plan. I mean, they've kind of mapped it all out, but I think in the end, still you get to play in the NHL, you get to, it's a dream come true.
Right. Yeah.
You would think. And I'll bet you for 90% of the kids, it's like that, and even players, they're like, when you talk to Matt Coronato after he signed his deal, very excited, happy, can't wait to get going. Klapka, same thing. He's like, I wish we were playing tomorrow.
What was the Coronato negotiation like? Because it did feel like, it's an American kid playing in Calgary. Ooh, careful. But it never really, from where we sit, at least, or where I sit, it never felt like that was one that you were ever in danger of having any complications with.
No, it was really, hey, we're open longer. We're okay doing a shorter deal. We're fine. You're restricted for this amount of years. We're willing to, we're willing to list anything. Obviously, we want to see how you feel about it. And they instantly came back, said we'd rather do longer.
Yeah.
Matt wants to be here. There's no question, thinks we're going in the right direction, happy, likes the city, likes being, for an American kid that went to Harvard, with Fox, it didn't work out that way. But
even Johnny had to get on a private jet, and you didn't know how that was going to go necessarily. Did you?
It was. I thought it was a done deal, but when we got there, it felt like not quite sure it's going to be done. Yeah. So, I think those are the things. But it's just, I think the players kind of the way they talk about the city, the way Ryan Lomberg's wife went on a podcast. I don't, those things are great for us. I was so happy when she said what she said, and those are the big things, guys are staying here in the summer and they're training and they're not leaving, which is exciting. Wolfie, and I walked in the other day, and Baller and, Lomberg and Bax is still here. So, they're enjoying it here. They want to stay, and they know how much fun it is here in the summer. And the weather has been hit or miss a little bit, but they're out golfing. They love the mountains. It's a good place to live. And that's what I think people are starting to see.
You want to do draft? Where do you
draft's to the 27th. So how do you prepare? And for the first time, you're not going to be at a venue with the players. You're going to be in a war room. Like, is this, how do you prepare for this? It's a little different.
Yeah. The one thing I think, so the one thing I'll be able to bring everybody in, Ryan Huska, everybody who wants to come in, player development, pro scouts, we'll all be in one room now. Yeah. And when I get a phone call, I would kind of talk, and then I could talk to the few people here on either side, and then it would kind of circle around. Would we trade this pick for those picks? Would you do this for this player? But now we're just going to be able to speak freely. Yeah. What would we do? Analytics would say, we have a formula to say, okay, if we're going to move down so many spots, we're moving down in the first round. What pick do we need to make it worth our while?
Sure.
And stuff like that. And then they have a formula. Okay, this makes sense. This is a fair deal, and we'll move forward. And so that'll be the nice thing.
Is there any kind of a drawback to not being collective on the draft floor?
You're making a lot of calls during the week right now, just touching base to see would anybody be willing to move up or down?
Yeah.
What's the appetite for that is, just so we have a general idea. And, you know, I think we're at 18 when we kind of see where the draft's falling. Okay, is there an opportunity to move up? And if so, what is it going to take? So we have those talks already. It is nice at the draft to be able to go and over and just kind of chit chat. Yeah, you just, you know, oh yeah, I forgot. I got to go. Can we talk 1 second? And then go through it like that. It does make it a little easier. But when you're at the table, it is very packed in there, and you're trying to keep your lists hidden, and, you know, not that, hey, everyone's doing their own thing. I don't think people are looking over, but, you know, it is tight, and you're trying to be quiet.
Yeah.
How would you characterize the draft class? Because it's funny, we were in Nashville, our first year doing this, your first year as GM. We were there when you made the picks for the first time as GM. And that was supposed to be this draft class that was just incredible and one for the ages. And the more I look at the 24 draft, I'm like, damn, that was way better than I thought. And the 23s aren't maybe popping as much as I thought they were. How's this group, and how much can you really know until you see them a couple of years down the road?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some good players in the draft. It's what you're looking for, what you want to do, what, you know, this is a draft where we might know. Usually we could say we kind of hit the list for like 20 to 25. You kind of knew who was going to be in there. I feel like this is a 10 draft.
Yeah.
And I don't know how the order is going to go.
So after that point, it's just scatter.
Yeah, I think people are, you know, they like this type player. They want that type of player. Maybe they're going to go size on defense. Maybe they're going to go in this direction. So everybody's got their own, you know, it doesn't feel like it's going to be, you kind of could read the tea leaves and say, okay, he's going one. David's going one. Here comes Eichel too. You know, you felt like you kind of knew. I think this one, even one. I don't know. Really? Where it's going. Yeah, like I think I know who, you know, we would take, but doesn't mean everyone's gonna. You know, especially with Matthew Darsh being a new GM, going in with a staff. I don't know. Yeah. You know, I don't know how much he did with the draft for Tampa. So, you know, he's really going to rely on his guys there, or in what direction he wants to. Because he hasn't seen his team. He's seen his team play, but, you know, when it's your team, you really start, okay, this is how I'm mapping it out in the future. These people fit. This is how we're going to put the puzzle together. So I'm looking forward to seeing, you know, even the number one pick.
There are some new GMs when you think about that, right? As far as, you know, for a long time, well, he's been there for 20 years and he's been there for 15 years. And there still are some gray beards or whatever you want to call them, but you think you got Briere and Greer and yourself, and there's
shots all of a sudden.
Right, there's been some changes. Yeah, there's been some changes for sure. It's the question, because you're a little further down. I guess it's probably like positional need or best player. And to a certain extent, you're never going to look past if somebody's a highly skilled defenseman, and maybe you're looking at centers. But it feels like the center spot is such a need for you guys. Are you closer than ever to maybe being position over best player, or is that ever the case?
You know, I think we put the list together, and I think when it comes down to, okay, our picks in two, these are the players. If there was a player that we thought was elite, like, okay, even if it was a winger or, you know, whatever position it was, and we said we have to, this guy's too good to pass up. As much as you'd like to go for a position, I think we would go with the player that we say, how did he fall to us? Like, we have to take him, you know, and that's our belief. And obviously the other teams don't feel the same way about him, but we do, you know, and that's why we got to have strength in our conviction when we go. You don't worry. Like, that's why I wouldn't even want to see anybody else's list. I just want to see our list and what our guys believe. We put all that work in, all those interviews, all that time in the road. I appreciate what the scouts do, those late nights. And, you know, I know there's bad weather and, you know, you're always worried. You just want them to be safe, guys. And, you know, if you need to get a hotel room and stay, just do whatever you got to do to be safe. So that's kind of the focus. But we're excited about the draft. I mean, I don't know how it's going to play out at 18.
I remember Berkey would always say, and I think it's a little bit of bluster from Berkey. He's like, if anybody, we had our list at the table, and if anybody wants to divert from that list that we've worked months on, I'm going to punch him in the mouth or whatever he would say. And we've seen Brad, you know, Brad's thing is, well, we'll move down because there's a player we like. We think we'll get, or at least we've got two or three guys in that pocket. We think we're going to get one of them. Is because you have a surplus of picks. Is there how easy is it to maybe, well, we'll take this pick and we're going to try and move up? How aggressive do you think that option is that option there, or is that a lot of good? Is that just kind of talk?
No, I do think it's there. I do think talking to different GMs and it's there, but it's going to be there at the day of the draft because, like I said, I don't know how it's going to unfold moving down, and they said, we have a group of players of 3 players we really would like, but if they're gone, we'd be willing to move back. Because then they kind of had a larger group where they feel comfortable with. So, and they would like to, add more picks, especially teams that don't have a lot of picks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a prospect expert, but it seems like a consensus opinion. You've got a really, really, really good A prospect in Parekh, where you took at 9 last year, and you've got a lot of intriguing guys, but not slam dunks to be stars. Mm-hmm. Are you of the mind that we don't need more B prospects? If we can take 2 picks where we think we'll get B guys and turn it into an A guy, we got to do that? I mean, moving up's always easy to talk about, but every year, we're open to do it, but it just doesn't happen that often.
Would love to do it. Would love to do that. What was it? 2 drafts ago, it was a no from everybody.
The national draft.
Yeah, the national.
Loved the 23 class.
It was, exactly. Like, I was like, wow, that was my first one. I'm thinking, this isn't that easy.
I'm not very good at this.
Berkey sent me a note. Right? Berkey's always sending me a note. Hey, it's okay to move up in the draft. It's not illegal. So so it's kind of, he gives me a little shot. But that year it was impossible. Nobody was moving. I think last year there was a few moves, not a ton, but it just depends. It's so hard to get up in the top 5. I mean, you would love to get, and for sure, everybody's like, I was, when we were watching the draft lottery, when I'm thinking, oh, please be number 9. So we would have went down to 6. That last ball, I'm like, we're still in it. We were out on the first round. We were out. I was like, well, that's no fun. I forgot I was on TV. I'm like, of course we're out first. I threw my hands up. I was like, not happy. But I'm like, Pete's like, you're on TV, Craig. I'm like, sorry. Sorry, guys. I'm like, I'll keep my emotions to a minute. But then I was getting pretty excited. I'm like, oh, here we go. I'm like, we can get to 6 here. Like it would have been amazing. But but like I do say, as the draft starts to go down, I do think there'll be opportunities. And you just have to, that's where it would be nice to be at the draft. But, we're all using our cell phones. I think there might be I think they might hardwire a line in there like they do at the draft.
So I guess a lot of the conversations we've had is very, very big picture, and this fan base is having. And it's like, okay, you're watching the Oilers and the Panthers play. It's like, is this a team that's a few tweaks or free agent ads away from being in that level? Do you have to tear it down to the strips? Is there a healthy middle ground? And there might not be more of like an indicator of where this organization will go than with how you deal with Rasmus Andersson. Mm-hmm. What have the conversations been like? Because clearly on July 1, you can choose to extend him. He's got 1 year left on his deal. But you and Rasmus as parties have to be at least close on numbers. So what have the conversations been, and how do you sort of move forward? Because one path is keeping a veteran and the other is potentially moving him for younger assets.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the biggest thing. I mean, even when at the end of the season, kind of when he left, he wanted to just take a mental break, not talk about any of this. So now, over the last week, we've reached out to them and now we've started the dialogue. So it's the beginning of the process. We definitely have a term and number that we like, and they have a term and number they like. And that's where it kind of, it begins, but that's part of the process. And it's, I think it'll kind of, I think when you're looking how this goes, it will determine, a little bit of what path we're going to go down, so it's never easy. And Rasmus has been unbelievable. I mean, the way he played with the, the broken leg and to do what he did, to try to get us in. I mean, he's been an ultimate team guy for us and we love him, but again, it's a business too, and it has to work for both sides. So, we'll continue to see where we're at with the two of us and move from there.
Would you want to have resolution ahead of the draft, or is like, hey, look, we can go into the fall here and there's other drafts that theoretically, if there was a trade, you could move picks for? Like, it'd probably be best case to have it ahead of the 27th.
Yeah. The one thing I give Ras a lot of credit, he's just very honest, you know, and he just said, hey, if we can't come to a deal or we do come to a deal, like, I'm a Calgary Flame. Even if I come back next year and I don't have a deal, like, I'm here. I'm going to play hard. I'm going to do everything I can for the team. So if anything, he's been real open to beforehand, those conversations. Like I don't think he would be upset. I don't think there's a deadline for me. Oh, you don't get him signed, he has to go. Like Rasmus isn't in that mindset. Rasmus knows he wants to have a great year next year because that helps his contract. Like we all do. Every time I went in a final year, you're thinking, oh, I want to have a big year here.
The more I look at him, the more I'm like, this is his one cut in free agency, if it happens.
Because he's 30, yeah.
And because he did that, longer, not really a bridge. Like that second contract, it was a really good team-friendly deal for a long time. And it's like, if he's going to get a lot of term, whether that's 7 years from somebody else or 8 for you, like he's now late 30s. Like this is one chance to feel the market a bit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's, if I was the player sitting the same thing, that's what I would be thinking.
Yeah.
We couldn't get a free agency till UFA until you're 31, 32 back in the day. So you knew that was going to be your one chance. You weren't going to hit it multiple times.
I don't want to get you in trouble, and I don't want you
I do.
to please. Do. No, it's clipped and it's on the internet. But yeah, are you accepting calls on because that's part of the job? You
don't know what your assets are.
One avenue is, well, let's see if we can get him signed. The other avenue is, well, what if there's a trade out there that makes sense and if there's a team that loves this guy and it's a no-brainer for us and we have to pursue that. Mm-hmm. I can only expect that you've been having some conversations with teams. They will be calling. They know what's going on. Not are you fielding offers, but what's that activity like for you as you approach the draft or just approach July 1 in the summer?
Well, that's just part of the job. Yeah. You have to do that with every player. You really do, because you don't know what's going to come up, what someone's needs, hey, maybe there's a great fit. I never thought of it. The other guy did, and that's part of it. If there's a way, if someone just calls and says, hey, we would be willing to do X, Y, Z. And it's, that makes total sense for the next 10 years for our team, we would look at it. But it would not just Ras, it's everybody.
Have you been intrigued at anything at this point?
It's mostly draft stuff right now. And then, hey, what are you thinking? What are your needs? They're kind of, everyone's had their meetings and they're going through what is, I call and what are you guys looking for? Are you looking for, what type of player? Is there a defenseman? You need a goalie, you need a forward. Like those are the type conversations. So you're just kind of building out who might have interest in some of your players because of what they're looking for. And that's the way it starts a little bit. And then you'd have to call back and start piecing things together.
And I see why it's hard, because we get caught up in the day to day and you think a 7-year deal is like, that's so long. That's a lifetime. And it is, but this is a guy who's 30. He cares about the crest on the front.
He loves it here.
You need to, need those guys. And he's a hell of a player. And he shot blocker and battles. He's exactly what you want. So to lose one of those guys, but that's also coveted by teams that you think maybe they feel like they're a step away. They're this close. They're a Rasmus away. How hungry are you to get this one piece that could push you over the top? It's a delicate balance. And I know for you love your players and you love these guys, and you went through it with Hanifin, and not everybody wants to be here. There were some of the guys you knew that the sooner we get them out, probably the better for everybody else in the room. It doesn't feel like that's the case here.
No, it isn't. And I have a great relationship with Rasmus. Yeah. That's the one thing. I remember the Tom Wilson stuff. Both of those two guys going back. He's got the stare after he
got some moxie.
He does. He has that personality and he's fun to be around, and I enjoy. He chirps me, I'll chirp him right back. So it's just, I'm like, how many games have you played, Rasmus? 1,009, buddy. Relax, Yeah. So we have a good relationship, but again, you're always trying to do what's right for the team, and you have to take calls, listen, and then there is a financial thing. I know everybody says the cap's going up. But it doesn't take much to spend the money. Yeah. If you ever dip into free agency, and it really, the money can go quickly, and you have young guys that are coming, you guys know who I'm talking about.
The goalie that needs to get paid soon.
And that's the thing. They go, it's not like the old days where you go your first contract, and there's kind of that bridge. Yeah. I looked back thinking, I wish we had it where you have a good entry level and then bam, you could nail it. Because that's the difference between then and now.
I will move on. But I just wonder, and it's kind of what Pinder said off the start, like with Rasmus, how this goes. If it's extension, I don't know that he walks for nothing. There's always a chance, I guess, of that. But if it's trade or extension, does this have any potential to be we're changing course now long term? If Rasmus comes back, it's like, well, the term's good and the dollars, we like that deal. Okay, we're signing him, and if we're signing him, then maybe we're going into free agency to add another one of these. We're going to try. We're tied for a playoff spot. Mm-hmm. Or if it's pretty clear the money and term is too much, and we've gotten a good trade offer, well, maybe now we're more inclined to take other trade requests. Is it potentially a fork in the road based on how this one negotiation goes?
I don't think so. I mean, I think, I kind of said at the end of the year, when I spoke to everybody on the team, it was all pissed off that we couldn't believe you get 96 points, we didn't get in, and how we're going to be better. Each guy took it, said, hey, it's on me. I got to be a little better next year. If I'm just a little better, we're going to take that next step. So this is we talked about it being a good group. It is a good group. I think Matt Coronato kind of shows you, hey, I want to sign here long-term. I mean, we got some other guys to get done still, but I think it's more about this group believes, hey, we're the underdog still. No one's going to believe in us next year. We can move forward. So I don't think one leads the other, because our goal is always to continue to get better. Again, we have the plan. We're going to keep putting in young players. Yeah. We have to put in young players, and they have to become significant pieces, and we got to give them that support with the veterans. So, and hopefully with that, we're get in the playoffs. That's the goal every year for us. Get in, and then and let them get some experience, And that's that's where, like with Gridden winning the Rookie of the Year in the Quebec League, like you watch a lot of his game, powerful skater, scoring, can play PK, Basha being able to come back. Unfortunately, and you're looking at our guys, Battaglia with 40 goals. We're going to need these guys, because we're not going to. I don't see us build. We're not going to build through free agency. That's not a, add mm-hmm. If you can get something, it's got to be the right fit, the right piece. And if it's a star player, you have to consider that 100%. Those are the things you have to take a chance at. When someone of high caliber gets to free agency, you have to make a pitch to see if you can bring them in, because again, with this, we might not be able to draft top 5, because I think our teams, they work hard. We're going to win games. Our young goalie played really well. We're going to have some ups and downs, but I don't think it's a team where you're saying, oh, we're going to, that's not what our guys believe. Our guys believe, hey, we're coming to win each and every night. So now how do I kind of put the pieces together and add, but it really is going to be through the draft or trade.
I believe what you're saying. I also know that Boston and Nashville would have said the same thing a year ago, and they're both going to pick in the top 6.
Yeah.
And those are disastrous years, and they happen. I mean, the 96 points and the culture stuff's great, but there's no guarantee that carries over, right?
None. That's why I think people are probably going to put us right back to where they were last year.
You're going to 80, 81 points was the over under, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But we don't believe that. I mean, our guys don't believe that, because if you let them believe it, even your young guys, what are you really teaching them? It's okay to lose in the NHL. We play in the NHL. It's fun. Oh, we lost a lot of games, but it's not really how it works. You have to keep building. So you want to keep adding these guys. I mean, to see Parekh come up, play a game and score a goal, like he's going to make a push. This is a guy that we're going to need to be, if we're going to get to where we're going, he's going to have to be a really good player for us at some point. Yeah. I don't want to rush him. I want to make sure he's in the right spot, but he brings a skill set that is pretty special.
That's got to be an exciting guy to have. And
yeah,
I understand that development's not linear, and he didn't have a great camp last year. He didn't play a lot he had the one game at World Champs, and I think part of that was make sure he's ready for camp this year. Mm-hmm. It would be tough to see him go back to a league that he dominated as a defenseman for a second year in a row.
True. That's why we wanted to get him back, get him training, get him ready, because he's going to have to get stronger. Yeah. I mean, he took a couple hard hits in that one game, and I'm thinking he was fine. Like, really good game, but now you got to do that 82 times.
Right.
That's hard, for a young guy, especially a defenseman. Forwards, they can be protected a little bit more. Defense, not so much.
Yeah.
But it's exciting. It's exciting when you watch him in practice and see what he can do. The way his mind thinks a little bit differently than I'm like, whoa, I didn't even think he'd pass to that person on the power play during practice. And you're thinking, oh, I can't wait to watch this in the game, because he just all of a sudden he's in the slot in the power play, and I'm thinking, I don't even know how he got there. And then he scores. I'm like, oh, good. So, those are the things, but that's how we're going to have to do it. If our pick is 18, yeah, we need to dial in and make a good pick. I know everybody, I kind of, whenever I reference what Dallas did, they made some great picks later. For sure, Huska, and they got that pick, which was good. Yeah, so, that's why I said if we could have went down to 6 with where we finished, that would have been a home run for us, Right. So I was pretty excited for about 10 seconds, and then it was gone. But we're gonna have to continue to, we want to keep building. You want the young guys to be in those games like Matt Coronato. I wish Zari was, not hurt, so he could have played in those games. But to have Wolfie down the stretch playing in all those games, I mean, that's important. And I think having the Colemans and the Kadris and the Cup winners and all these guys, I mean, I thought Hubie had an unbelievable year. I mean, killing penalties, he might be our best penalty killer.
Crazy.
I was very impressed. I was like, when Ryan and him had conversations, how are we going to get him more involved, more ice time? He did kill penalties in Florida. So Ryan's like, we're going to kill penalties. And I'm thinking, I wonder how that's going to work. Excellent. So.
Yeah. Wolf up for the Calder, and I think there have been a lot of those, it'd be nice ifs going into last year. He had to have met all of them and exceeded it. Seems to be on track for what every team would love to have. You mentioned contract. Where is this? Let's lock this up as long as we can. What is there? It takes two to tango, they say. What are you hearing from their side? Where are we at there?
Yeah, they would be, we just talked to them and they'd be open to it. They're going to get back to us. They're not in a hurry.
Yeah.
Like the one thing about Dustin, even he said, he loves it here. Where we picked him, the faith we had in him.
Yeah.
He's a very loyal person, and he wants to show everybody, hey, a lot of teams had a chance to pick me.
Everyone.
But Calgary did, and I'm here. And, that's what, he doesn't go home. He's always here in the summer, which is exciting, and he's working out hard. It's amazing how, for a goalie, he's in great shape. I'm watching him. He's, and he's, even at his end of the year, he goes, I know I can improve. I have things I need to work on. And he kind of went through them, and I thought, okay, good. Sounds good to me. So he's already dialed in where he thought he could have improved. He said the same thing the year before. He didn't like not that he didn't like, but he was like, there was games in that first little where he came up at the end of the year when Vladar was hurt. And he was like, I got to do this. I got to come out here. I got to cut down angles and all the technical stuff that I don't really, I'm like, just stop the puck. Yeah. And Jordan and him talk about it, and LaBarbera and he's like a sponge. He just wants to get better and continually learn. He's got a great routine that he does every game. I walk down usually to see the coaches, and he's dialed in. I don't talk to him. I just walk by him, back by him, leave him alone. But he's focused, and he said, I can play as many games as you. That was his one thing. I can play more games. I can play as many as you want.
You do media day of he's a different cat. He does not fall into a lot of the goalie stereotypes.
No,
he's not huge, and B is I'll talk.
What's your best guess as we sit here today on your backup?
I think that's still a work in progress.
It's a weird market this summer.
It is. A
lot of names.
There's not a lot. And I think that just shows people are locking up their goalies as quick as they can. And just kind of moving past that, but we have some work to do there. So I don't have a exact answer for you, but we'll continue to.
What's the bigger consideration there? How much money either the backup or the tandem makes, or the person? Because you've got your number one.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
It would seem like.
It seems like you're selling 30 to 35 starts, no more. With the way Wolf looked, right.
Well, and Wolf wants to play more games.
Sure.
You always want good people, but you wonder, do you want that veteran guy who can be there, or do we got someone that can come in and win games, and whether he gets along with Wolf or not, that's maybe secondary.
Well, it's funny. Those are the conversations Jordan and I have. What is the best partner for him? What makes him feel the most comfortable. Obviously I thought him and Vladdy were great together. They did an amazing job, and I saw it grow. The relationship was maybe at the beginning, they both wanted the job, both wanted to be the starter. And it kind of got to a point, I'm not sure when I think it got to a point, but how they were, I could see them talking. It was more they were a tandem and they were working together. So that was positive, especially down the stretch. I mean, I know Dan didn't get to play as many games, but when he did,
he was great down the stretch.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. Couldn't been more happy with Dan's, play.
If I'm correct, and not a lot of the coaching stuff is public, but I believe your head coach is heading into the final year of his contract. It used to be the school of thought that you don't have a coach in his final year. It's a lame duck thing. We've seen the league sort of be more open to that now, but then also maybe not. I mean, there was 1 year left on DeBoer. There was 1 year left on Tocchet, and those situations resolved themselves differently. Are you comfy with a coach in the last year of their deal? Does it make them a lame duck? And where does, getting Huska a new deal rank into your priorities here?
It's definitely something that I prioritize, but for me, him going into the last year doesn't do it. I said it a long time ago. He's my coach. We're building this together, and I think we need some continuity. We've had a lot of coaches change here, and I think it's hard to keep systems and coaches and then just philosophies. So, I mean, I think Ryan has done an amazing job. We took a step, and now we're always hoping to take another step. That's the goal. Take another step, get better. But, as far as timing, I don't think for me, it doesn't mean as much. Like, I don't think it's like, oh my God, it's something bad. He's not lame duck coach. It's not, he's done a great job for us. And when we do get time and we both can agree on a deal, I would love to do something with him.
It's funny. We watched Sam Bennett's incredible postseason and, just incredible. He was here. You got to watch his development. I think he had like 5 coaches. Like, you talk about continuity there. Mm-hmm. When you look back at Sam and what could have been, or maybe what wasn't going to happen, like, how do you make sense of that? And, given hindsight 2020 and looking back and the perspective that the management team didn't have then, like, what can you learn from that?
Well, I can learn. I mean, the one thing is we drafted Sam as a center. We drafted him as exactly what he's doing right now.
Yeah.
And we never put him in a position to do that. And that was on us, except in the playoffs,
right?
When he was excellent for us also. And we gave him a few chances. The one probably coach that probably believed or, felt like, okay, we're going to do this with Sam was Bob Hartley. That first year. I think he had 18 goals that year.
Backlund's line.
Yeah, on Backlund's line. And I think there was going to be a progression, and then we made the coaching, we make a coaching change, and then everything changes. Everybody sees everybody a little differently, and that's the thing. We can't afford to do that. We have to find out exactly what our players are and what we believe they're going to be, because when you see him in the playoffs, he was the best finishing checks, doing exactly what he's doing right now.
Yeah.
He went to Florida and they put him on the second line with Jonathan, and away he went. And now he's doing what he's doing. So, you always want to do over but we didn't figure out exactly what he was. So I think that's important moving forward to make sure we know exactly what our players are and be right. A heck of a lot more than we want to be wrong. But Sam was the highest pick we've ever had here. But
how much pressure did he feel? Because he never, the opportunity wasn't given. Well, he didn't take anyone's job. And we talk about it, it's like, how about you go make it impossible for the coach to not play you at 2C? He didn't do that.
Yeah. No, that's true too. But still, sometimes you have to give a little bit.
Yeah.
You have to give.
We talked about it, not to throw anyone under the bus, but Jeff Ward asked before the start of the season, what is Sam Bennett? Where is he playing? Playing center. And it lasted for about a week. And then he was on the wing, and then he was down a line, and then it was essentially over.
Yeah, and then that was history. Yeah, I mean, those are good things for us to learn and take from above, and especially when we believed in Sam when he was here, and we just hadn't seen it, and then you make the trade, and it felt like overnight when he went to that second line center.
He went on a heater right away.
He got to play with Jonathan, like I said, and he was excellent. So. Those are good learning things for us. So, we can't afford to make those mistakes with young kids.
We got to get you out of here fairly quickly. I guess just as far as July 1, I didn't see, when you go to market and I'm drawing the blank on the player you signed July 1 last year.
Mantha?
Mantha, because he played 9 games.
Yeah.
But here
so
you are.
Like that
Gordie
sign.
Howe, though.
Yeah.
Great. Do that again.
Here you are again. It's a team. Well, defensively they're pretty good, and they play just a little more offense. Are you even a bit? Are you a bit player July 1? You've got cap space, or hey, let's go. How do you foresee July 1 being for you?
You know, I think there's players that you target and say, this is something we'd like to get, and you have to go after those players when you have an opportunity. Might not happen. They're going to have 31 other teams to look at, but I think you have to make a push if you feel like this guy can help you. Even this is the reason, and the reasons why, and it has to make sense long term, you know, and he can be a difference maker for us. I think that's what we're looking for now. You know, I think last year we were looking for a little bit more. Like when we got Mantha, we're saying, okay, we got young guys coming, but we don't want to just throw them into the fire. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, Mantha unfortunately got hurt, but it gave Coronato that chance, you know. So I don't want to block anybody with someone that maybe he's a little better right now, but hey, if our young guys are coming, they might pass him.
Yeah, but if there's somebody out there, I'll just. Will you be big game hunting?
Got to try. I think you have to try all the time. We're always, like I said, we're trying to get better every day. So you have to see, you know, and you don't know who's willing to come or who isn't willing to come until you make the phone call and ask. And we do have money.
When there's a contract in front of you and you realize they're serious. Oh, well, now I do have a decision.
Yeah. It's just like when we got Kadri, I wasn't sure, you know, like remember Brad saying, hey, we're going to target Kadri and see if we can bring him in. And it took a while, you know, that one seemed like it went a while, but you know, we got him, but he was a guy we really wanted, like, and we targeted. Same thing with Coleman and Tanev. Like, you know, those were guys that we were Markey coming in. I mean, I think if there's an opportunity and there's a need, we have to, especially when you have cap room. Yeah. You know, and like I said, it can go quickly, the cap room, but we have to be aggressive, especially here in Calgary. You know, we have a new building coming, but we just don't want to get a body to get a body. That doesn't make sense for me.
You brought in 2 younger forwards mid-season in the form of trade. You got younger. You've been trying to add younger players. What did you make of the third of a season or whatever it was for Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee?
Yeah, I thought they fit in great with the group. Unbelievable. I would have liked a little bit more production at times, but you know what? It happens. The one thing about, even with Farabee at the end, I think the last 10 games, we kind of took scoring chances, and he was third in scoring chances, Kadri, Coronato, then Joel, and it was not going in. Yeah. So, you know, we need to get these guys to get back to where, you know, half a point a game, 20 goals, but they fit in great to the team. They fit in unbelievable. I mean, Frost carrying the puck in on the power play really made a huge difference for the PP, kind of what he brings. He was good on the face-offs. I think he might have been our top face-off
which
guy,
you love,
which is important to win those draws. So I think, you know, now we just need them to, we want everyone to take a little bit of a step next year. You know, the young guys, especially Klapka, getting him done. You know, he played really well down the stretch. We want, and again, it doesn't always start that way, but we know he can do it, you know, and he's going to have more confidence and it's going to feel more comfortable to him coming back next year.
When I look at your group, like you're still long in the tooth at certain spots. You're young in other areas. I wonder, like, kind of lost in this thought here, but I mean, you're going to try to augment the group. You are going to bring in some young guys. There's a stable of kids that you drafted last summer, and a lot of them are going to be showing up in the AHL as soon as next year. Like, you're going to all of a sudden see Basha, you're going to see Gridden, Ristevich has got 1 year in the end of his belt. Like, how hungry are you to get those guys in? This is the guys you've picked, and a year out, like, that draft class looks very strong that you had.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that's the nice thing. We do have the opportunity to put some of those guys in the American League next year, which I think they're probably ready for. But again, we don't want to rush it. We don't want to put them in over their heads where they're, you know, swimming and not having success, and they're like, this is not going well. Yeah. You know, we want to make sure, you know, I think we kind of did it with Michael Furlan, remember, the first year, and then we ended up sending him to the East Coast League, and then we just had him go back to Brandon to kind of reset, because it was hard. I mean, even though he's a big, strong guy, powerful, it was hard. And I think going back, playing in Brandon, having that, you know, last little bit, went to the Memorial Cup, all that stuff was huge for him. And then he came back and he was like a different player the next year. You know, it just takes time, and you don't know who's going to be ready for it at what, but we got to be, that's what we just want to be careful. We don't want to rush guys in to hurt their development. We want to make sure they keep keep going in the right direction.
One of the guys that's been there for a couple of years is Sam Honzek. He's been robbed of a lot of developmental time with injury. Where are you at on Sam, and how do you keep him healthy? It's been, you feel so bad for the kid. He's missed a lot of games.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Like, the one thing is he had a great camp. He came in, he made the team. Then he had the injury and then went down. And it's tough, and then he's like, oh, I'm in the NHL, I'm down. And then another injury. So it's just been, he's got to get bigger, stronger. He's got to get, he's got to get a little, but he's powerful. He's fast. Like, his wind gate, I still was looking, he might be one of the best ever at the combine, just like pure explosive power. So I'm like, as he still continues to get bigger, stronger, but again, we need to be patient we all want our first rounders to play tomorrow, sure. But it might just take a little more time, and we need to be patient. Just like we were talking about Sam a minute ago, we got to make sure when he's ready to bring him up, and because they're big men, fast, strong, physical, and hopefully he's got all these injuries out of his way, and he's a healthy player for the next 10 years.
We do have to get you on here. Like, just the last one when we talk about offense and everything. Kind of forgot, in a way, oddly, a forgotten guy was Sharangovich. Mm-hmm. He was so good 2 years ago, gets the deal, comes in, injured in preseason. Really? Takes him a long time to get in. Like, it was a bad year. We still had, 13, whatever he had. 17 goals.
20, yeah.
You saw him at the end, too. It was back to where
starting,
in the
right?
shootout, back. You could just see he felt more comfortable again, and the leg felt good.
Yeah. What is he as a person, as a guy? I know people joke on, oh, he likes Lego and this sort of thing, but he's still a young player in a different country, in a new city with now a long-term deal. He feels like an important piece, obviously, for this team.
He's a huge piece. I mean, when you see a shot, you see the skill set, you see what he brings. And I think he was very hard on himself this year at times because it didn't start well. Yeah. Getting hurt in the last exhibition game. Maybe he came back a little quick, and then, it's hard because we're winning. We're off to a good start. Let's get him back. He's like, yeah, I'm good. I can do it. And maybe at that point we should have just said, okay, let's just give it one more week. So you feel completely healthy.
Yeah.
But, towards the end of the year, I really saw it come back, but he was very hard on himself. So, a lot of it's a mental game too. So we got to make sure that he stays in a good place and hopefully comes in, has a good camp, and we get in injury-free and get him going. But we're going to need him. I mean, shootouts, every point matters. I mean, we were 96 points. One more shootout, one more, it's the what-if game. I tried to let it go, but it's hard because you figure how 3 teams have done it ever where they've got 96 points and not made the playoffs. When you're looking in the East and you're thinking, 91 got you in. It's frustrating. But the West is a beast. I mean, it's hard, and even seeing that Colorado, the first round, it's amazing to see how good the teams are here. So I know we have a lot of work ahead of us, but we're looking forward to it. And I think we got some great young guys and great leadership on the team with the older guys, and we're just going to continue forward. And we're hopefully make some great draft picks. Looking forward to this year. It's going to be a fun draft.
Thanks for coming in. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks.
Hey, buddies. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Also, if you could throw in a like and subscribe, it does help us out with what it is we are doing. And check out more at flamesnation.ca.